This Genesis review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and if and when Sting shows up in WWE, TNA officials will finally understand that maybe booking departing talents like gods on their way out the door at the expense of the current roster probably isn't the best idea in the world. Just saying. You know, the more I think about this business of these pay-per-view themed impacts being 2-week events, the more I don't like it. To me, this is coming off like a transparent marketing tactic. And more than anything, it's given TNA an excuse to play fast and loose with the fans' expectations. Like, we'll announce a big match for Genesis, but it might be on the live show or it might be on the taped show, and you gotta watch both to find out which. Or, we'll put a bunch of great stuff together, but rather than putting it all on one big supercard like a real pay-per-view on free TV, we'll just water it down and stretch it out as 2 lesser cards over 2 weeks. But they both count as Genesis, so it's not like we lied to anybody. No, that's not exactly true. Announcing a cage match for 1 week, but then having it the next week? That's lying. That's jerking your audience around, and I don't like that. You know, it's a bait and switch, like I said last week, and it feels kind of cheap to me. Especially when, with a little bit of rejiggering, you probably could have had most of the stuff you announced for Genesis, like that cage match last week when we thought we were going to get it. And something that's supposed to be a really big deal, like Sting's potential last match in the company happening on the taped show when the crowd is completely burned out, certainly didn't do that match any favors. Of course, I can't very well argue with the viewership this week. Highest in a year, congratulations. So maybe there is something to this. But at the same time, TNA is kind of setting a dangerous precedent here where if this continues, the fans may start to think that you won't always deliver something they want to see even if you advertise it. So maybe they can skip this show or skip that show and not really miss anything. It's something to think about, is all I'm saying. My first impression of this show was not good. This one started out laughably bad. Dixie and Co. are talking to her lawyer, who we get some info from about this latest power struggle storyline they're doing. And apparently, this mystery investor has been quietly buying up a lot of shares in TNA, even though I'm pretty sure no such things would be for sale because TNA is not a publicly traded company. You figure that one out. And now this investor has acquired enough of a stake in TNA that he, she, they has the authority to sign new talent to contracts without the company president's knowledge, even though any sane business person possessed of at least 1 or 2 mental faculties would know enough to retain a controlling interest in the company so things like that would never be able to happen. If TNA was not privately owned, but it is, so something like this should not be possible in the first place. Ugh, my head hurts.
This is unbelievable. This doesn't make any sense.
Jesus Christ. If it was this freaking easy to stage a hostile corporate takeover, then why did... then why did Hogan and Bischoff have to resort to committing massive multi-million-dollar fraud to gain control of the company? They could have just done this and it all would have been nice and legal. But, you know, I mean, they somehow avoided going to prison either way, so I guess it doesn't make a difference. This was pretty hard to swallow. Did the investor buy Jeff Jarrett's ownership in the company? Is that where this is going? Well, Jarrett's starting up a competing promotion, so by TNA logic, I guess that would mean they now have to involve him in this storyline somehow. God, what a mess.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
While the opening promo segment with Magnus and Sting did set up the main event pretty well, it highlighted one of the big problems I have with the Sting character. In their efforts over the years to make Sting some kind of altruistic white knight, TNA have turned this guy into a very frustrating Gary Stu character, just a giant hypocrite. And the really crazy thing is, I don't think they're even aware of it.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
Sting calls Magnus a paper champion when Sting didn't even bother to work live events when he had the title. He preaches about honoring deals and whatnot when he can't even practice what he preaches, getting his second shot at the world title, which he's supposed to be contractually banned from competing for life. Honestly, I thought Sting came off more heelish than Magnus in this segment. And yeah, Magnus has done some bad things recently, but he's owned up to them. He's not pretending to be something he's not. Meanwhile, Sting is trying to act like some kind of saint when he's basically guilty of all the things he's accusing Magnus of.
Your posterior better contact someone at once.
It would have been really awesome if Magnus had called him on all that stuff. But then Sting would look less than perfect, and God knows we can't have that. Especially not on possibly his last night in the company before he starts thinking seriously about that WrestleMania payday against The Undertaker. So, yeah, TNA wants us to view Sting through rose-colored glasses in this situation, and I'm just not buying it. This did not make me root for Sting. This made me like him less.
And if you're not down with that, we have 2 words for you. You're welcome!
You know, this James Storm Gunner world title briefcase on a pole match was not bad. It was really impressive at one point with Storm nailing that standing Hurricane Rana off the top turnbuckle. It wasn't the smoothest move in the world, but points for effort, dude. Holy shit. I just didn't agree with the finish. In my opinion, James Storm deserves that world title shot, is far more ready for it, and is a much more credible contender for the title than Gunner is at this stage. I appreciate that TNA are trying to build up a new guy, but I just don't think Gunner is at a place where he can run with this yet. It just really depresses me to see James Storm used like this. It looks like any chance he has of a world title reign is getting further and further away. There's so much potential in James Storm to be a top guy if they just get behind him and give him the ball, but they just don't seem to want to go there with him. And that's a fucking shame. The character dynamics were really screwy in this X Division title match. I thought Velvet Sky was supposed to be the sympathetic figure in this situation. That is, until last week when she told Sabin that if he didn't win the match and retain his title, then maybe she'd go find a boyfriend that could get shit done. Basically saying that her affections were dependent on her man being the X Division champion. And yes, Sabin had been acting like a douchebag heel recently, but this made Velvet come off like some kind of gold digger. Ironically, that would be a lot closer to her original characterization, but I don't know who the hell we're supposed to sympathize with now. Aries, I guess. He wins the title after Velvet refused to pass Sabin a weapon because Sabin couldn't just hide a weapon under the ring for some reason. Match was pretty good, but it felt too short, and it was a far cry from the match they delivered last summer, which is what I hoped we'd be getting here after several matches of them holding back. A little anticlimactic, yes, but at least it's some kind of storyline for the X Division champion, and that's a hell of a lot more than the tag team champions have had for the last few months. And considering who the tag team champions are right now, I say thank God for that.
Nobody cares about you guys.
Speaking of tag teams, I was very underwhelmed with the debut of the American Wolves last week. I thought it was just a waste of any excitement people might have been feeling about it. But TNA kind of redeemed themselves here. This video package they put together on the Wolves was awesome. I kind of wish this had been their real debut, actually. And last week, they seemed like just pawns in this new power struggle angle that's brewing, but here they look like a much bigger piece of the puzzle. Announcing that the investor will be revealed next week, being like the heralds of this person, like the Silver Surfer to his Galactus, if I can be a geek for a second. That was really cool. You know, them hopefully making their in-ring debut on the UK tour, also really cool. Sure hope that happens. You know, the way they showed up initially, I didn't think was that good, but TNA managed to rectify it here. Nice job. I confess I was getting a little tired of the Bobby Roode-Kurt Angle feud. Not because of anything they'd done, they've been great, but I thought there was a danger of it becoming redundant like Kurt Angle Jeff Jarrett did once upon a time, and I wanted them to end it before that happened. This was definitely the time to end it, and they capped it off the right way. This cage match was worth the wait. Man, this was damn good. Even with the state of Kurt Angle's body and all the injuries he's had, the guy did a moonsault off the top of the cage. How he got up and kept going after that, I have no idea. That guy is unbelievable. Go out of your way to see that. Angle finally gets the win over Roode, but overall, this feud has done so much for Bobby Roode, so much to elevate him, so much to make him look like a major player. And just imagine if other veterans in the past who shall remain nameless had been as generous and gave their opponents, gave the homegrown talent as much as Kurt Angle does, how much different the landscape in this company might be today. Just imagine. So after that great cage match, I guess management thought we needed a piss break segment to cool down, so they sent the bromance out there to kill the crowd for a while. Ha-ha! Going from all that awesomeness to these clowns right after, that was pretty damn jarring. Holy shitballs, this promo sank like the Titanic. Angle and Roode had just woken the crowd up, but then these guys had to go and put it right back to sleep.
They have nothing intelligent to say.
The bromance just cut the same promo they always cut, saying the word bro 500 times and expecting it to get over when it never does. It was almost worth sitting through all this to see Abyss finally come out and obliterate them, but this storyline with Abyss and Eric Young just feels like it's treading water at this point. Oh my god, now Abyss might not be controllable! Okay, but we haven't really resolved the Joseph is Abyss is Joseph thing yet. Shouldn't we wrap up that plot thread first? It's starting to feel like the writers don't really know what to do with this character now, so they're just having him meander around with no real direction. And this storyline has been on such a slow burn for so long now. I really want it to just get to wherever it's going already before I stop caring about the destination. It might be too late for that already, I'm sorry to say.
This is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Samoa Joe crushed Rockstar Spud. Afterward, he basically installed himself as Magnus' first real challenger after Sting, and that's cool with me. Joe always looks more motivated when he works with Magnus. There's some great history to draw from with those two. And Samoa Joe, finally back in an important spot again, that's been a long time coming. I hope they start to build up to Joe versus Magnus for the title at Lockdown. I think that's the most compelling match they can make, and I'm crossing my fingers that that's the plan.
Yes! 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 Yes!
It was a little bit disheartening to see Rockstar Spud get demolished like that, but you wouldn't expect a guy like him to go over a guy like Samoa Joe anyway. You know, Spud really isn't that type of character, and he can easily get his heat back with a promo or something. Just give us more promos like the one he had with EC3 before the match and I'll be happy. My god, that was hilarious. These guys have so much chemistry together, and with any luck, EC3 and Rockstar Spud will be the new tag team champions of the world when EC3 cashes in that Feast or Fire title shot. If what they've shown us so far is any indication, that would be an entertainment goldmine.
Rockstar Spud is in the building!
Sting versus Magnus with Sting's contract on the line was the match we all knew it would be. Dixie makes it a no DQ match. And why? So every heel on the roster could legally interfere, of course. Because God knows we couldn't take this opportunity to make Magnus look dominant. That would be insanity. The only logical course of action here was to put Sting over like Super Cena in his last match in the company, so that way he gets an even bigger pop if and when he shows up on the competition's show to challenge The Undertaker. Underwhelming match due to Sting not having it anymore? Check. More run-ins than you can count? Check. Distracting nonsense with the referee? Check. World champion made to look pathetically weak? Check. Every heel on Team Dixie undermined in order to prop up a guy who's leaving the company? Check. Tenay and Taz refusing to shut their traps and announcing the end of Sting and TNA the exact same damn way they announce everything else. Hashtag bring back Todd. Check. Horribly counterproductive booking continues with no end in sight. Check and double check. Alright, the news isn't quite as bad as when Magnus faced AJ. You still had the guy who was leaving booked like a bigger star than all the heels combined, but this time they had Samoa Joe out there beating up multiple dudes too, so it wasn't a complete waste. Also, Magnus actually got to beat Sting with his finisher. Once again, Bobby Roode had to do the heavy lifting for him, but at least Magnus got to do something to put Sting away. And if it seems like I'm grasping at straws here, it's only because I'm grasping at straws here. With the finishes of Magnus AJ and now Magnus Sting being what they were, it really makes me wonder if Magnus versus Bobby Roode might be the long-term goal here. Maybe at Slammiversary, maybe at Bound for Glory, who knows? But I think that would be a really good way to go. I bet Roode turning face on Magnus would get a huge pop if it were done right, so stay tuned on that one. Genesis? Not as far as the booking was concerned. In terms of booking, this just felt like same old, despite who the world champion is right now. I will say that I thought Genesis Part 2 was a far, far better show than last week. But if you tuned in expecting that new era that TNA keeps going on about, it looks like, well, they might be a little bit closer to it, if only for the fact that their eternal blind spot Sting is gone, at least for now. They're not there yet. So when will this supposed new era really kick in? Next week? Lockdown? I don't know. But if the incredibly frustrating way the exits of AJ Styles and Sting were handled is an example of the type of thing we'd be leaving behind, then I say the sooner this new era starts, the better. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Information is strength. Those who have the knowledge make the world spin. Those without the information live in blissful ignorance. For weeks now, the ignorant masses have been herding to me like sheep. Questions. They covet the knowledge that I possess. Is it about the new owner? Who is the new owner? When will the new owner show up? When will the sale be official? The power of this information that's going to change everything for this YouTube channel, that's going to usher in a new era. This YouTube channel
Is for sale.
everyone will suffer. And I've played these fools like puppets on a string. I'm not some monkey that dances for your amusement. I don't dance. I destroy. But soon, very soon, this information will become public knowledge. What I know will be revealed to the world. And when the identity of the new owner is unveiled, then the reign of terror begins. Well, I sure walked right into that one, didn't I? Shit.